Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's July 17th, and right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery starting as of yesterday morning. I'm going to put this into motion here. You can see the marine layer burn back towards the coastal areas, and then you see the monsoon moisture with our upper level low start to ride back up across Oregon as we go through the afternoon and the evening hours. A lot of lightning strikes out there. Look at some of these storms that moved out over the Willamette Valley off the Oregon coast. Beautiful representation on the visible satellite imagery there. And then you can see it went overnight for a while across the Willamette Valley too. Tried to reach up towards the Portland Metro, and a few of those strikes did get close. Then we went towards this morning. Things calmed down a little bit here, but as you see, as we're going through this morning, we still have some of this for the east slopes, the Cascades, and watch this. Thunderstorms still ongoing here right off the Oregon coast and right on the Columbia River. Just recently, some lightning strikes showed up there as well, and you can see this activity starting to move up towards western Washington. Are we going to get a few lightning strikes out of this? It's such a fine line right now that it's hard to tell, but this area is now starting to move up across western Washington towards Olympia, Tacoma, and Seattle here over the next several hours, and then we're going to have this lightning potential across a lot of the Cascades, including central and north Cascades as we go through this evening, and this will spread some lightning threat across eastern Washington as well. So if we take a look at the upper level low here on the mid-level water vapor loop, it shows up quite nicely. Go through the day yesterday, and you can again see the hundreds of lightning strikes across Oregon, moving out towards the coastal areas, over the Willamette Valley, up the Cascades, right across the Columbia River there. And then as we go through this morning, again, you can see the lightning strikes start to fire up again here with that upper level low, and right across the Columbia River there and eastern Oregon. Still, as of right now, still some lightning strikes ongoing. So taking a look for today, you can see the L and the red there. This is lightning fire threat. It does include western Washington. They extended that up the Cascades as well, some of northeast Washington, Idaho under the gun, southwest Montana also. So if we look here, this is isolated dry thunderstorm threat just outside of the Seattle and Portland metro areas here, again across the Cascades, includes eastern Washington, Spokane, and Pendleton, and Boise, and a lot of Idaho there as well. So this is day two. This threat will be pushing off to the east as we go through the day tomorrow. And of course, Spokane has been having this graphic up for the last few days. In case you missed it here, there's dry thunderstorms here. And again, these are not producing much rainfall, so they don't help to extinguish any fires that they may cause. And continued heat. The heat's been really impressive across eastern Washington just for the duration of it. And we're going to start to ramp this heat back up again here as we go through Saturday and Sunday. Look at some of these temperatures. Lewiston 110, Chelan 108, Spokane 105 here. This was issued yesterday afternoon, but it still applies. And then we have the chance to start to cool down as we go on in through next week. As you can see, the temperature starting to get out of the 100-degree range here, but a very impressive, I'm just going to call it a heat wave. I mean, this is, there's some pretty impressive temperatures here for like Moses Lake. You're up over 100 most days, and then we're going to really peak here as we go towards the end of the weekend and early next week. Now, Seattle, again, 88 degrees here yesterday, 10 degrees above average. This is just kind of downright hot for Seattle as well. 88 degrees. It's pretty impressive temperature-wise, and no precipitation just yet. We didn't get any record highs or anything like that, but still very warm temperatures, and our streak of 80+ degree days continues. I believe yesterday was day 13, if I want to say correctly. Now, taking a look at if you want an affordable home weather station that builds its own forecast for you, has a lightning detection system. I know everybody who's bought one of these is waiting to see if you're going to catch some lightning here moving across western Washington, western Oregon. If you were out there last night watching your station, then you probably saw it picking up some of these lightning strikes. Very fun weather station here. This is what the unit looks like. Great smartphone app as well. Click on that link down below to save 10% off. Taking a look at the temperature here at 18,000 feet on the European, you can clearly see our upper level low and how it's going to move up and across the region. So as we go through this afternoon, that upper level low moving across the Cascades in eastern Washington, some of the North Cascades, is probably going to be triggering some lightning strikes with it. And of course, it's going to have some of that extreme fire danger as those lightning strikes are occurring. Now, taking a look at the North American model, a little bit closer view here. This is at 18,000 feet. So this is that monsoon moisture riding up across the area. So it's caused all those lightning strikes yesterday with the So on the GOES 18 satellite imagery that we were looking at, we saw the lightning strikes, but you can see the monsoon moisture now riding up into western Washington. And you can see as we go through the later morning hours and the day to day, this is going to be that potential as this upper level low kind of fills and rides right across the Cascades here. So what we're looking at is you can see some of this trying to drift off out of the south and east back towards western Washington. Does it have enough of that kick? Is it unstable? Does that layer unstable enough aloft to really kick off some lightning across western Washington? It's always such a fine line with these setups here that we just don't know quite yet, but the Cascades are a much better bet, as well as some portions of the higher terrain of eastern Washington as we go through the day today. Now, taking a look at 700 millibars, about 10,000 feet, you can kind of see that upper level low off the coastal areas here. And as it starts to move up the region here, you can see the southeast wind. And again, will that have that oomph to kick off some of this instability off the Cascades back in the foothills back into western Washington? It just might have enough to do that and kick off a few lightning strikes, but no promises yet. Definitely a better chance across the higher terrain of the Cascades. Now, taking a look at Newport, this is on the Oregon coast. You can kind of see that monsoon moisture aloft, mainly above 10,000 feet. That is now kicking off as we go through the timeline here. As we go through this morning, here's Wednesday, then eventually Thursday and Friday here. And then you can see the drier air arriving aloft. And then we go for Portland. You can see the monsoon moisture is right over top right now. Can't rule out some more lightning strikes in the general vicinity of Portland International Airport. But then you can see the drier air arrive as we go through the day tomorrow. Now looking at Seattle, Tacoma, again, that monsoon moisture just to the south now going to start to ride up over the area as well. Then the drier air after that. And this is for Grant County. This is Moses Lake also. That monsoon moisture mainly 10,000 feet and higher aloft. So here's looking at the North American model. These models have not been doing well with the extent of this lightning across the region, but you can gain a little bit of information from them. You can kind of see this would be that where that thunderstorm occurred right there off to the west of Kelso, across the Columbia River there, Washington-Oregon border. And so that activity is going to try to move up. Is that going to trigger a lightning strike for the Seattle Metro? Tough to say. But then you can see the upper level low that's going to cross across the Cascades. Could again kick off some additional thunderstorms. Maybe we'll get just enough of a southeast flow with some of that instability back over western Washington. And again, these are probably going to be producing lightning here at a pretty prolific rate, I would say, as we go through the afternoon. Anywhere from Mount Rainier across, Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass, North Cascades. You're probably going to be getting some lightning as we go through the afternoon and the evening. So here we are just after sunset. You could still be getting some activity here across eastern Washington, northeast Washington as well, and up into British Columbia and the Rocky Mountains, Idaho Panhandle, thunderstorms going all the way into Thursday morning before that kicks off to the north and east. Here we go with the high resolution rapid refresher. I'm going to update this to make sure it's all recent. This is the 13Z forecast here. And again, the HRRR has not been performing well. If I go at 7 o'clock, you can see it just may be a little blurred, but it's not really picking up some of this lightning activity off the coastal areas as well. So you got to take this with a grain of salt. And it does show the thunderstorms popping up, mainly, just south of Snoqualmie Pass or just north of Mount Rainier. And as we go through the afternoon hours and moving up north. But again, these models have been underdoing the coverage of the lightning. Good at the European. Let's scroll through from last night, and you can see it didn't really do too well with a lot of that lightning activity out there last night. Again, underperforming, but again, it does show, you can kind of get the hint here that we're going to be getting some activity across the Washington Cascades as we go through the afternoon in eastern Washington through the evening hours. Now, this is kind of an interesting look. This is a dynamic tropopause potential temperature. So it shows that upper level low quite nicely, and it shows how it kind of scoops out some of that monsoon moisture and brought it back up across the Pacific Northwest here. So what you want is you want some of that southeast flow here because you need that unstable air aloft to be brought back out over the western portions to really get that thunderstorm, that lightning threat. But there goes that upper level low kind of spinning across the area, and that puts an end to that thunderstorm risk for Seattle and Portland as we go through tonight. And then you can see the troughing developing out over the Gulf of Alaska, and the next ridge start to build and reach up in towards central Canada as we go towards the end of the week. But it's going to be a cat and mouse game for a very strong ridge and some deep troughing here out over the Gulf of Alaska as we go on in through next week. And then you can kind of see this trying to pinwheel towards Pacific Northwest. This would probably start to kick some onshore flow and definitely cool us down as we go through next week. But we'll be watching that day by day. We're still a ways out. And again, that was one more look here at 18,000 feet. We're going to skip that. What I want to show you here is the Storm Prediction Center. So that gives you a little bit of timing on this thunderstorm activity. And you can see this is the morning hours for today. Yeah, they're missing those thunderstorms out here off the coastal areas and across some of the Cascades, east slopes of the Cascades. But they do fill it in back once we get towards about 1 p.m. It does include the Seattle metro here and some of the Cascades, of course, and that is Pendleton, Oregon right there. And then as we go through this afternoon and evening, it does include the North Cascades. It actually got a 40% out there as well and still has a chance here for some of Western Washington over towards Bellingham. We'll see how that goes. You know, this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I'm probably going to go out and drive around and see if I can catch a lightning strike or two on some of my cameras today as well. And this is the official Storm Prediction Center. It does include Seattle, just clips the Portland metro region here for today. It includes Eastern Oregon and Washington. And this is day 2 as that activity starts to push off to the east. And now taking a look at the extended forecast before we forget, European, this is a control run here from yesterday afternoon. So there goes our weak little system riding up into that ridge. And then we got that Gulf of Alaska troughing coming up with a very strong ridge across central Canada. And this is going to keep places warm as we go into the early portion of next week. But then this trough shows some signs of cooling us down a bit as that ridge is extended way back up into Alaska. Look at that, all the way back down across the Intermountain West. How much of the Pacific Northwest will we cool off? We're going to really drop those temperatures down across eastern Washington as we go through next week. Cross your fingers for that. As you can see, the European wants to dig this trough across the Pacific Northwest. That would be quite glorious here, and that would cool us down quite noticeably here as we go towards the end of the month. But no promises again just yet. You're looking over 200 hours out right now as far as that trough's potential to move down across the region. So yeah, I'll be watching that one closely. Looking at the GFS, you can see Seattle's 80+ degree days streak is going to go on probably for some time, potentially on in towards next week. We'll see how that goes, because one of these days could end up, you know, not getting a high above 80 degrees. We'll see. But you can see, you know, Thursday, Friday, some nice warm days. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when, you know, upper 80s was considered very hot for Seattle. So we're kind of living in that territory over the next few days out there. So, you know, take breaks in the afternoon across the region. And this is the National Blended model. So this is for today. You can see mid 80s for Seattle. Look at Portland, upper 80s coming in here today, depending on just how extensive that cloud cover is and how fast it gets out of here. But look at Eastern Washington, some areas up over 100 degrees again today. And then we go for tomorrow, Thursday, again, very warm for the Willamette Valley in Seattle, southwest BC. You can see some of the heat back into the valleys here, into the Cascades, across some of the northern Puget Sound areas. And then we go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And look at this heat on Sunday. You're talking about some areas approaching 110 degrees for Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, really ramped up. Look at the Okanagan Valley into British Columbia, temperatures well above 100 degrees there. Very intense heat out there as we continue to march on through July. And again, Monday, still another day, many areas above 100 degrees east of the mountains. But then as we go towards next week, you can see the cool down start to show up there, getting some temperatures back down into the 90s. Still pretty warm across southeast Oregon and portions of the valley areas here in Idaho, but definitely somewhat of a cool down starts to show up as we go through next week. So we'll be watching that one closely and crossing our fingers for that. Look at the 6 to 10 day above average signal here across much of the west associated with that ridge. This was issued yesterday, and there's some monsoon moisture maybe still peeking up into southeast Oregon. We'll see how that trends as well. And again, one more look here. This is for today, Wednesday. Let me update this. Sometimes they're updating this as I'm doing my briefings, but you can see that lightning threat is in place here for NW1, NW5. You know, it's going to be across NW8 and NW9. NW10 probably is getting as well. You probably could include in that area. But yeah, interesting stuff here. Let's see what this does today. You know, that band is moving up here, so you got to watch out for those thunderstorms. Eyes on the sky today. Elevated convection. Get your cameras ready out there. As you can see, I'm going to update this one more time, and you can see how that's moving up across the region right now. I didn't see any new lightning strikes just yet, except maybe across eastern Oregon, and another strike there across out over the Pacific Ocean as well. But yeah, a lot of lightning strikes. Pretty good show. I saw some of the pictures on social media coming in from portions of Oregon there yesterday as well. So yeah, glad you guys get to enjoy that weather. Hopefully this is not kicking off too many fires here, but the odds are that it probably has kicked off at least a few, and we'll see how those flare up over the next few days. And again, the show is still yet to come for the Cascades of Washington up towards British Columbia as we go through the day today. But anyway, I'm probably going to go out and chase today. I may live stream if I can see something cool. I'll try to start the live stream up once I get out there. Hope you guys can join me for that if I do that. And check out my video about monsoon moisture, an educational video I just kind of threw together yesterday. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll continue to break things down day by day, and I will talk to you guys either later today or tomorrow.